Hello and welcome to Kicking Assets, the podcast where every week we help you fill your footy boots as we tackle the intersection of finance and football. I'm Zee, aka the Reluctant Accountant, and I'm going to help you get some context about the numbers off the pitch so you can understand what's going on the field. I am joined by my illustrious and elusive co-host, the preeminent. I mean, where have you been? Because you're looking a little bit tanned and it's been raining for weeks.
That's just my natural colour.
Wow,
they used to call me the caramel kid.
glowing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow.
I was in Ibiza for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't see any sun because, you know, it's Ibiza.
Oh,
so you party all night, you sleep all day. So
that's good. Yeah. That's my lifestyle as well. His name's Rickie, by the way. This is Rickie Haywood-Williams, and we've managed to introduce you. So welcome. How was Ibiza?
Ibiza was fun.
Yeah.
Just a short break, little weekend trip away.
Okay.
Hit the ground running. But what happens in Ibiza?
Stays
in Ibiza.
In Las Vegas, in Ibiza, exactly, that's what I was going to say. So it's good to have you back, and it's good to be back on the sofa. Today, I thought we'd take it a little bit low. I think there's going to be some people some men are going to be a little bit disappointed. Yep, that's right, I'm on my period. No, I'm joking. We have had in previous weeks. I love that he knows my cycle. Thank you. We're so close now. In previous weeks.
Get yourself the flow app. Works wonders.
Can you just log out of mine though? Let's move away from my ovaries.
That's probably a good idea.
But no, obviously in previous weeks, especially early on, I had some comments about, oh my God, not another woman talking about football. Quelle horreur. Yeah, it was awful. But we're going to take it even further and we're going to talk about women's football today.
Nice.
Oh my God, if we can stand it. You know, they had to move it in the... You know what? It's really funny. There's actually a little bit of a metaphor for women's football, how progressive it is, because it's in the future, because it's in Australia. And I think about Australia as just being in the future. Like it's
like that.
Do you know what I mean?
I like that.
Like they're in tomorrow already.
Absolutely.
And as is the football. And did you manage to catch the game today?
I was on the radio, but we had it on in the background, so I saw the penalty shootout. I saw the whole controversy with Lauren James as well, which is a bit unfortunate. But, you know, the Lionesses, they got the job done.
And you know what? Whilst it's very sad that happened to her, it worked out for David Beckham, you know? Just wait for your effigy, and after that, your trajectory is like that. So hold tight you. Wait for the MLS, and then you're gonna be quinted. It's gonna be fine.
Big up to all my Nigerian friends, by the way.
100%. That's me. Yes. Thank you. Justin's doing this. Yeah, me too, Justin. 36% Nigerian, according to ancestry.co.uk. What? Don't ask about the rest of the percentages. Wild scenes. My ancestral Nigerianness was coming through. Shout outs to us. We should have won. We was robbed. But yeah, go Lionesses. I love it. You know when you're like, I'm just anything that's winning. I think it's a good place to start with the Women's World Cup, because obviously we touched on it in the last episode when we were talking about the money behind women's football, women's sports in general. It tends to be there's less money behind it. Yes. And specifically with the World Cup, I think there's been a lot of issues kind of getting it over the line in terms of getting sponsorship and whatever. Do you know anything about that? Because obviously I always have to defer to you first. Yeah,
so the little that I know on the topic is basically, I think the women want parity with the men in terms of coverage, not so much in pay, I don't think, because I think they understand that there's going to be a bit of a disparity in pay, but they still need to be paid more than they are being paid.
Sure.
And there just needs to be more professionalism around the women's game in terms of. I saw an article the other day where even the sponsors of their boots are giving them men's boots to wear rather than tailoring them to women's feet.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't know that women had different feet to men.
Well, there's going to be some kind of advantage to having a boot design specifically for a woman over a man. So
No, it does make sense, and you know what's interesting, because I think the current president of FIFA, I won't comment on anything yet about the current president of FIFA, but the current president of FIFA, who he was really angry about the I don't know if you know, but there was a bit of controversy about the sponsorship deals, TV deals that were coming through for the Women's World Cup, and he I think about a month and a half before the World Cup was being aired, he threatened to have a blackout and not have it shown anyway. Yeah,
Right.
because they said that the offers that were coming through from like in Italy, like painfully lower than in other places. Like Italy, I think it was like 300,000 or whatever compared to millions that were offered for Qatar.
Yeah.
And, you know, similarly within the UK, they weren't matching the men's game. Obviously, for me, from my perspective, from a commercial perspective, they're not going to match the men's game.
No.
But I think it's actually quite hypocritical of FIFA to be taking this stance when they weren't supporting the Women's World Cup for ages. And in fact, it wasn't even called the Women's World Cup. I think it was called what was it? There's something to do with M&M's in the title. Like, I wrote it down because I was, you think I'm joking?
That's Slim Shady, yeah?
It was called the first FIFA World Championship for women's football.
Wow, I didn't know
for
that.
the M&M's Cup.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because they didn't want it to tarnish the men's game. They didn't want it to kind of be associated like the World Cup was the men's thing.
Yeah.
And if
That's wild, man.
But this is the thing, because FIFA is like the worldwide governing body for football. And if you are not taking it seriously, you can't expect other people to just all of a sudden start taking things seriously. Yeah, and I think therein lies the kind of dilemma. So they're rightfully expecting more money for the women's game. And I think that they should do that. But there's also, you have to be aware of the economic climate in which you're asking for money.
Yeah.
Like, I think everybody knows when you're doing commercial deals now, there's less money that's on the table. And it's funny because I'm going to go back to my Nigerian sister who is a writer. You know, Chimamanda Ngozi, I think she's a writer. She's written quite a few things. And I went to see her at a talk and she had said about privilege. And she said, for us to have equality, people with privilege have to be prepared to give up some of their privilege. And she was like, I include myself, like, as in I'm not privileged. I'm just great. But she was like, I include myself in that. And I think it's the same sort of thing with the men's game. I think if there is a pot of money, you can't necessarily just go out to private organizations and demand more money. It might be that you say, look, that pot of money, you need to divide more up and give more to the women's game. That's not what they are asking. They're going, no, just find some more money and we want much, much more. And we know where that money goes, don't we? FIFA. Directly to the women's game.
Shots fired.
I'm just saying. We'll save that for the next episode. But yeah, so they're out there kind of demanding their money because they want it obviously to go directly to grassroots and women's football. No pockets being lined. So this is the thing. So I think they have made strides, and I think it is really good that they have made strides this year with specifically with their pay that the women were getting, because I think this is the first year that FIFA are actually paying the players directly. Okay. In previous years they haven't been in receipt of money, they haven't been getting salaries and stuff like that. So I think it's advancing. I think that you kind of almost need to be a bit disruptive when you're doing things, and I think it has to kind of almost be a bit painful if you want to hit the targets that they're kind of talking about.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to have to go through a period like it is going through now, where there's a lot of, there's a lot of to-in and fro-in. I look at the Olympics, for example, and track and field. And when I look at track and field, when the Olympics come on, or the Commonwealth Games, I don't look at the female athletes any different than I do to the male athletes. Yeah. And I feel like to get to that level in football, I think we've got a long way to go, but it's doable. And we know that because of the Olympics and because of track and field, we know that people can look at both sexes in the same
100%
through the same focus.
100%. And I think that if I was to say to people kind of Shelley Ann Fraser, they would know who they would. Okay, they haven't got the Bolt. I think also Bolt benefited from just having a really good name.
I mean,
what
a name!
That was just incredible. But I think
his children's names are even better.
What is his children's names?
But Lightning Bolt.
No.
And Thunderbolt.
No way. Did he really do that?
Did you know that?
That is such a black thing to do. I love it, but it's so black.
It's the best thing ever.
Wow.
Big ups to Usain.
Isn't it?
And Lightning and Thunder.
Exactly. And rain. And sleet and snow. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that's lightning. Imagine they
lightning bolts.
No, but you imagine they grow up and they're just... I'm glad you guys said it because I wasn't going to say it. I'm so glad you said it because I was like, imagine they're just really lazy and just sitting there rubbing their belly we call lightning bolt what? my fingers are very lightning, like when I'm No, shout out to that. They said it. I just want to say, if you're watching Bolt, because obviously you might be one of the 3 people that watch this, that was Nee that said that, so.
He's Ghanaian, don't worry, he's Ghanaian.
Exactly. But no, I do think, and I think it's a really interesting thing. I think when I was listening to this podcast actually, and it was about this woman in the US who was really, really into sports. She's really into like basketball, but I think she came from like an Asian American family, and they were like, no, you're not going to do sports. Be serious. Right. Do something serious. Yeah. And I think I don't know, she went into finance or whatever, but she always really loved sports, and then she decided. Finance? Like you. I mean, all the best people do. What? I mean. I think this is a good time to confess. I'm actually not a real accountant. No, I'm joking. No, you know what? It's those who can teach and those who can't do finance. I think it's something like that. But no, she was I think she might have been an investment banker or something like this, and she decided to open a sports bar which only aired women's sports. Wow. Okay. Yeah, and it's called Sports Bra, which I thought was very clever. Good. I thought that was very clever. Sports Bra, and it says we support women. You see?
That's very good.
I like that.
Very good.
But I was listening to the podcast, and she was saying, actually, it's been a really big hit. Not only that, she's like tried to help other people set them up elsewhere, but they do have a lot of men that come in. Mm-hmm. So they do have a lot of men that come in, and that really love the men's version of whatever game. Yep. And they'll be like, oh, but I've got sick of it now because it's too much of this or too much of that and whatever. Yep. And I don't believe that men won't watch women's sports, because we do it all the time. I think it's 100. I think we're just not accustomed with football. I think it's so heavily promoted to men that we're just not accustomed to doing it.
And there's been such an absence of it to access for so long. Yeah, we're still getting used to the idea of it. It shouldn't be that way, but it's a fact.
Yeah, and you do have to do that, because even I was saying to you, like when the Qatar, I do normally, like since a kid I've been watching World Cup football games, but when it was in Qatar, I wasn't being a conscientious objector. I was just like, I don't understand why it's in winter. I'm not watching. Like, I'm just like...
That was weird, wasn't it?
No, it was really stressful for me.
That messed with me, because it was at Christmas time, man.
I'm like, why? What do you mean the World Cup?
Normally I'm watching World Cup games in a beer garden somewhere, like in the summertime in the UK.
This is the thing, like there's a whole vibe that comes with it. And so like, if they continue to do that, I think my body would find time to adjust. He knows my cycle, so he knows it's true. But I would have adjusted. But I think it's the same thing. I think if you keep offering it to people, they will eventually start to take it, and I think they will enjoy it as well. So 100. Yeah, I think there's still hope. I think it has to be. I think you almost have to force people's hands with certain things, and ultimately, you know, FIFA will win one way or the other. So that's it. That's for my little shots of that. But you know what? Besides that, tell us what is going on.
Okay, so transfers at the minute. So I need to start with Paris Saint-Germain, PSG. Yeah. So arguably one of the wealthiest clubs in European football. Mm-hmm. They've made a bid for a player from Barcelona called Ousmane Dembele. Ooh. Now he is arguably Barcelona's star player at the moment, one of their star players. Obviously they've got that situation with Kylian Mbappe, who's potentially going to leave the club. Mm. Maybe for free, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, but they're trying to sell him at the moment because he's not signing a new contract. So they're trying to get Ousmane Dembele. Now the issue is for Barcelona, he's one of their star players. They don't want to sell him, but he has a clause in his contract. So once that clause has been activated, it's just 50 million euros. Oh, so
even I've got that.
On the open market, if he was to be like priced up without that clause, he'd probably be worth about 100 to 130 million. Oh. So it's an absolute steal if they get him.
Trust the Liverpool guy to know about the group ones, isn't it? Like, what? You just get this in? Yeah.
We're pinching them pennies. So basically, PSG, they're going after Ousmane Dembele. Yeah. If it happens, it's a massive coup for the club. But what is also happening, it's like a domino effect. When one thing happens, it just all kind of like flows afterwards. There's a player called Neymar, who is the most expensive player of all time, who plays for PSG as well. He's now said that he wants to go to Barcelona. But this isn't fact. Okay. I think PSG have said, if you sling your hook, we can get Ousmane Dembele for cheap, and it will be an easy deal. If you go as well, it will sweeten the deal. So, but the problem is, Neymar's wages are about £600,000 a week.
And they're not matching
and
that.
Barcelona aren't going to be able to match that. So we'll see how that works.
I mean, they've already got enough there. I don't know where they're going to find that money.
Yeah, the whole FFP thing is not good for them.
It's going from bad to worse. And also, it's just because they had all of those players that were just sitting, like they were just sitting on the bench for ages. I'd love that. You know what? I just feel like I'd love to get a job and just get paid, and I'm just like, oh, my hand is hurting. I'm so sorry, I can't type like that, and they just have to keep paying me. How can I get that? Let me Google it. So anyway, but like for real, I am going to do it. You just keep talking. But yeah, I think so. It's really interesting because you said so Dembele potentially could go for 50 mil.
Yeah. So I think PSG they know that they're going to lose their biggest asset in Mbappe.
Yeah.
So they want to replace him.
Yeah.
They basically have had this business model of like, we've got all the money in the world, but let's just throw as much money at our team as we can.
Yeah.
And they do this thing called like the Galacticos. It's just the way you get like players that would never ever come together because you know top teams don't normally sell their biggest assets. But because they've got so much money, they've managed to amass a team of just absolute superstars. So they had Neymar, they've got Neymar, they had Mbappe, they had Lionel Messi, all in the same team.
Yeah.
You only really see stuff like that on PlayStation, on FIFA. That doesn't happen in real life. So the fact that they've kind of thrown all this money at their team and they haven't won a Champions League, which is why they've done it really. They haven't won the Champions League. They're kind of going, right, we need to reset. We need to just try and they want to invest in French players, young French players coming up through the ranks. Dembele's not that young, but he is French. And if they're going to lose one Frenchman, they want to bring one in and then build from there. So that's what they're trying to do.
I feel like there's a joke in there somewhere. But I wasn't, you know? No, but it's well, we know why. You know why PSG have got money. It's that Saudi.
I mean,
money.
I didn't want to say like I'm always throwing that into the mix.
Let's stop flogging a dead horse over here. But yeah, no. But that is kind of interesting in terms of. The 50 million, if they get him for 50 million, Dembele, and what was you saying? What were the numbers that you were saying for Mbappe? Like
well, the numbers for Mbappe, because the last time we spoke about it, there was a bid from Saudi, wasn't there?
Yeah, how did that go? He's like no.
That got squashed like.
I feel like he should have done a year
immediately. I think the numbers were he would be given a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
Be given like $700,000 a week. It's ridiculous.
I feel like he could have just done a 2-week thing. Do you know what I mean?
If it was me, I would have gone out there.
Yeah. Or even just done like, because it probably starts from like pre-season training as well.
Yeah.
So just do that.
I would have gone out there.
Out, can't
I'd have pulled a hamstring in the second week of training and just like.
Obviously, I feel like, you know what, we should just start some sort of page where it's like, you know what, we can get you out of work, but it's fine. We've got that whole plan. But yeah, if he went out there, so say, I don't know how much he's potentially, so I'm going to just assume like maybe 150 mil,
like if Neymar went for 200 million, and that was about 6 years ago, Mbappe's going to be around the same sort of price.
Right, so actually, even if he goes as a free agent, then if they can get this one in for 50 mil and he's potentially worth 150, they're still like, it's not realisable money, but you've still kind of made like, cut some losses.
I also think you don't look at it in the sense that you're replacing Mbappe because he's irreplaceable.
No.
He's like a generational talent. So, but getting Barcelona's star player is a massive coup.
Yeah, I think so.
Coup.
And
for 50 million as well.
But I also think that's something that we discussed before. You can't just buy stars and expect them to gel together. You see?
She knows.
You know what? At the end of this, I'm just going to be a football expert. What? Hello, Sky Sports.
Which is what they've done. They've tried to do over the last few years. Just buy the best players, the most expensive players, just throw money at it. A bit like what they're doing in the Saudi League. That's what they're trying to get to. And that model doesn't really work. We had it years ago with David Beckham at Real Madrid. And you had Zidane, you had Figo, you had Beckham, all of these top players, and they didn't really win that much. They didn't,
because what they've won elsewhere, you'd think they'd come together like the Avengers.
It was a team full of stars, but it wasn't a team.
Yeah,
and that's what PSG have kind of done over the last few years. So now they're trying to scrap that model. They've accepted that Mbappe's going to leave, and they're trying to rebuild again.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. What else is going on? Anything else that's new?
Yes. So I feel sorry for West Ham fans at the moment because out of all of the Premier League teams, they're the only one that have made 0 signings. 0 signings. Which to me is wild. Because as you know, we spoke about it on the pod. they've not long sold Declan Rice for a world record or an English record transfer fee, of £105 million. So they've got all this money to spend, and they just can't get anybody through the door. Now, this is my opinion, not fact. I believe it's because West Ham had a really poor season last season in terms of the whole, if you look at the whole entire season. And there was talk about David Moyes being sacked at some point. There was a lot of unrest in the dressing room. But towards the end of the season, they pulled it around. He got them out of the relegation fight and they survived.
They won, like, was it a Europa or something?
Yes, they did.
God,
yes, they did. They won the Europa Conference League.
Thank you.
So they got to the final last year, lost, got to the final this year and won. Now, I think because of that, at the end of the season, the club have kind of bottled it a little bit and gone, oh, do you know what? We weren't going to sack him, but we did all right. We've won a cup. Let's keep him. But now that the new season is on its way, I think they're thinking, we didn't really want him to stay. So we don't really want to invest in the players that he wants because we don't think he's going to be here for that much longer. So it's having a bit of a counterproductive kind of situation to their transfer.
Do you know why I know that they won the Europa League?
Google?
No, almost, very close. It was because, do you remember that, like, little kid that was like, Prague that way? Like that. That's the only reason I know that. I was still trying to find out. And then I was like, oh, they won. He's going to be so excited.
And he actually sounds just like Russell.
Like, he does. And he looks a bit like him as well. So it's just a bit random. Like, what? You haven't got your braids in the same way, but it's fine. Ben will do it for you after.
East London in the house.
So, but yeah, no, literally, that's how.
That was a cool video though. That was a
cool video. I really like that. The interviewer was a little bit annoying, but like, no, the little kid, he was like, what? You think we're going to get alphabet up? See? Oh, I loved it. It was amazing. It was amazing. Him alone. I mean, we should get him on the pod if we can.
We should get him on the pod.
Yeah. You know him, don't you, Nee?
But it's not all doom and gloom for West Ham. I heard that there was a bit of a power struggle between the manager, David Moyes, and whoever is the powers that be that put the transfers through. But I think they're kind of coming to a bit of an understanding. I think a bid went in today for Harry Maguire for 30 million from Manchester United. Whether that comes to fruition, I don't know. They bid for James Ward-Prowse from Southampton. Southampton went down last season, so there's a bit of a fire sale at their club at the minute. But 2 bids have been rejected. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, zero signings. Zero signings. I mean, hopefully it will be different.
You know what they call that?
Oh. See, this is actually gets information. Google, Siri.
Do you know what they call that? No. Okay. So obviously they call it love in tennis. And here today, as much as we'd love to stay, I think we're gonna have to wrap it up for this week. We will be back next week. In next week's episode, I will be going in on FIFA. What? Yes, I'm ready. There's gonna be like men outside my door, innit? It's fine. I'll move.
Listen, FIFA are connected, you know.
No, I know. They run the world. I know. They're the real Illuminati. I'm joking. I'm not. But anyway, we will be back next week. And who do you think will be winning the Women's World Cup?
Oh, I can't. I mean, I'm biased. I do believe that the Lionesses will do it.
Yeah?
Just because I think they've got that experience under their belt from winning the Euros. They know how to win.
They didn't play that well today, though.
They didn't play that well, and that's why I believe that they'll do well. Because if you don't play well and you still win, what happens when you do play well?
Yeah, no, you're right. We're going to see. So we will see you next week. And we won't find out if Rickie's right because the final wouldn't have taken place there. But we'll know whether they got knocked out. Anyway, I'll see you then. Kicking Assets. This episode is produced by Nee Odartei Evans, Justin Chinyere, sound recorded by Ben Ring, and was filmed in Renaissance Studios in London. Kicking Assets.